Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for part two of our essay writing series. Today, we're going to be talking about brainstorming topics and techniques for the college essay. And I'm joined by our fabulous guest, one of our favorite admissions representatives, Cristina Usino. So Cristina Usino works as the Associate Director of Admissions for Multicultural Recruitment and Student Access at Lafayette College. Lafayette College is a small liberal arts institution in Easton, Pennsylvania. And Christina has been involved when working at Lafayette College for 5 years, 3 specific years working in admissions. She's actually our admissions representative. And she has also been involved with the Intercultural Development Office and has had experience working as a therapist in different counseling centers. So I want to say thank you for joining us. And we're really excited to have your expertise here today for our writing workshop series.
I am thrilled to be here. Berkeley Carroll is by far one of my favorite high schools in all my territories, but specifically Brooklyn. I love Berkeley Carroll. I love the vibe I get there. So I am thrilled to be here. And I've read all of the essays for the past 3 years. So I know y'all in good historical hands.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Christina's a great one. She's a fan favorite, I will say, of visiting our students. We have lots of students that are interested in Lafayette. So today, basically, when talking about the topic for the college application process, thinking about the importance of this is that, it really allows the admissions representative to understand who you are as an applicant and as a person, what's important to you, experiences that you've had in your life. And the essay topic is the vehicle for you to take that admissions counselor anywhere that you would like to in any point of your life and in any point of your reflections that you have, your inner thoughts that nobody hears. It's adding personality to the application and setting the tone and the read for kind of who you are. It really does play a large role in the admissions process. So my first question for Christina is, what are some effective strategies to brainstorm topics for your college essay?
Wonderful. Love that question. And so it's definitely going to be therapist informed and driven, just because that's sort of like my value placeholder. So I think for students, in order to even begin this process, acknowledging that this process can be anxiety provoking, it can promote procrastination because we all know what a big deal you've heard the essay being in your life, right? Everyone always talks about sort of the weight of what this essay has to do for you in your college application. So first, making space and time to allow that reality to sit how it's going to sit with you. And so once you've allowed that space, I think creativity only exists and brainstorming and producing and a flow to ideas to come forth come from a place of relaxation and safety. So first creating that habit for yourself, carving out time during your week to sit with yourself. And then again, it's all going to be about self-reflective questions. There's a ton of stuff out there on the internet of like you literally could Google self-reflective questions, open-ended questions, questions to ask myself to know myself better, writing prompts. That's the very first beginning of this process. But something that we discussed earlier that I want to just highlight for the students, because it's a gem that was dropped, is that you also need to understand what way do you brainstorm. So there are going to be folks that sit down and brainstorm and journal, and writing is something that's very natural to them. But there are also people that are external processors, auditory processors, and you may need other people to have ideas with. You may be someone who learns from reading from the works of others. You may be someone who is inspired in music or in nature. So tap into how are you wired and how does creativity flow from you so that you can begin the brainstorming process.
Absolutely. We always say, if you're trying to do something that's not working, the magic's not happening, go where the magic happens and do what you got to do to spark the magic. And with Christina and myself, we both have a background in counseling and therapy. So one thing that we actually talked about before creating this video was the use of narrative throughout the process. And, thinking, a lot of times in therapy and just in general with a narrative, it stays in your head. Get it out, talk about it, write about it. One useful skill that you can use is to create a timeline of your life. And you're probably going to highlight the good and the bad, but these really big events that have had a significant impact on you, there might be a college essay in one of those life experiences. So that's something that we also like to kind of bestow upon you, and really kind of understanding that, once you have a couple topics, if that's the route that you're taking, start drafting. And if you find that you're writing for one more than another, the magic is happening. You're probably really kind of gravitating, and the creativity is going off for that for that particular topic. And it's about being mindful about which ones are working for you and which ones aren't. I love that Christina said, you ask yourself questions and reflect, because that really is this part of the process, is really kind of digging deep and looking inside and asking yourself those questions, but also giving us the answer to those questions in the essay, because we're wondering who you are. Perfect. Um, so what resources, are there any specific places that a student can go to figure out how to brainstorm, or kind of utilize different support systems to help brainstorm?
Sure. So I know that every student is going to think that I was paid and sponsored by Berkeley Carroll for my answer that's about to come out. But I can assure you, I will go on the record that I was not. I have been very blessed and privileged in my career to meet so many counselors and counseling offices across the country and in community-based organizations across the country. And when I say that, when I read Berkeley Carroll letters of recommendations from the three counselors that you all are blessed to have, they are some of the best letters of recommendations I read in the country, bar none. And why? That comes from the three of them being self-reflective, the three of them connecting dots, the three of them being aware of their own narratives and their own lives. And attitude reflects leadership, right? And so if you are around that energy, if you are around that role modeling, this process will feel cathartic. This process will feel exciting. Tap into the resources that are literally right under your nose. Go there first. And that's why, I think that's why people choose institutions in high schools like Berkeley Carroll for these resources. Utilize them. They are some of my favorite humans on this earth. They're just reading their letters and the way they process and the way they write. Not only will it make your essay better, but I promise you, you'll be better people when you are in communion with these three folks. I'm telling you, I know a lot of people. It is my job to know a lot of people. And I always feel like I'm coming home when I have conversations with your counselors from Berkeley Carroll. So please, please tap into them and have one-on-ones. Also, letters of recommendation that are really good that I read from Berkeley Carroll counselors are the students that go to their counselors, right? So I can read in a letter about your writing process because you went for your writing process to your counselors. So I know Miss Williams does that a lot. Like in her letters of recommendation, she'll write about the writing process of a student I'm reading. And I get to be part of that journey too. So it behooves you on so many different layers to go to your counselors.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're very involved with your process. And that's one thing I can say is we are as involved in the process as you allow us to be, students. So really utilizing your counselors as a mirror, honestly. It's for you to come with your
Yes.
thoughts and your ideas, and for us to help you reflect that back to yourself. And maybe you might not have heard something that you said, or maybe you might not have connected those dots of two things that you talked about. But that's really where that relationship and that kind of therapeutic alliance, the counseling alliance, really comes into play. Other really important resources, there's a really great gentleman called the College Essay Guy, who has really great documents, as well as questions that you can ask yourself during this process. Socratic questioning for yourself. You know, it's not just this is the topic, but why did you pick that? How did it make you feel? There's lots of different things that you can ask yourself. And then finally, asking for support. I know that Christina and I have been talking about getting support, but also, knowing that you're the main character in this narrative. This is your story, this is your application. So Christina and I talked about being mindful of how much support that you're getting, but when does that support borderline come into it becoming noise and distorting your vision? That's probably when you should kind of reel back a bit and kind of keep some things to yourself. So how do you, you're doing this brainstorming topic, maybe you have a couple, maybe you're really writing with one. Christina, in your experience, how do you know that a student has found the right topic?
Yeah, it mirrors for me much of how I know when I was in the counseling aspect when a client made a connection, right? That aha moment. Some of my favorite moments of my career have been when I am in real time sitting with a student and I see them find their topic. Their literal like bodies come alive, right? It's that aha moment. I see the glimmer in their eye. I see they're fidgeting because they just want to go back to their laptop and start writing. And so that's how I know when a student can't stop writing, when a student is saying to me, oh, how am I going to fit this in the word count? That's how you know, right? Versus like, I can't even fill this page. So the aha moment and knowing that you found your topic makes you come alive, makes you feel invigorated, excited, enthralled. All procrastination fades away. So to quote you, go where the magic is, because witnessing that, there's nothing like it. And when I read those essays of the aha moment that I got to see, they're some of my favorite, and they stay with me for my lifetime.
Yeah, I've been a witness to some of those aha moments, and I think, when that creativity is kind of on full blast, it's get everything out. Don't edit anything, keep everything, and then when you're in a different mindset to analyze everything that you've gotten out of your brain,
Yeah.
that's where the editing starts. And I love that you mentioned the word count, because I feel like so many students try to write within the word count. My rule of thumb is write, just get
Right.
it all out. And then you and I and your college counselor and anyone else that's helping you in this process will help you retain what it is that you're trying to say within the word limit. So, I think this really is a place for you to kind of get everything out. And I love that you said you're using therapy, because this is a very therapeutic type of process.
Yeah.
Talking about some type of experience, fleshing it out for a lot of people, reflecting on it, thinking about how it's made you a better person. And that's one thing that we really like to highlight, is that you want to keep it positively framed. When you're applying for a college or university, you never want to put your negative attributes forward. There might be a negative experience, but turn that into a story or an essay about resilience. Talk about your personal qualities. What qualities do you want to put forward, and think about how you can turn that into an essay. um, those are really the things that the admissions counselors are looking for, is why should I admit you, and why do we want you to be part of this great community. So now you've got the right topic, you've had this aha moment, um, but now you have to execute. So Christina, my question for you, my next one is, what strategies can a student implement into their essay to help them flesh out their topic a bit more?
Sure. So I love, I want to build upon like these are building blocks, right? And I love that we're doing that. So you've free flowed and you did something we call free write, where you don't care about word count, you don't care about sort of grammatical things, you just want the creativity to flow. Then once you've done that process is where you go back and you start to edit. So something that I call a brain and a life hack. Our brains only want cohesion. And so stories of our life, why things are difficult or we haven't moved on from something, is because there wasn't a cohesive experience, right? So we want cohesion in any story we tell or write or share, because it's the way our brain is. And then cohesion just makes life feel better. So you'll want to make sure that whatever story you've chosen to share, there's cohesion in it. You've connected the dots. If there's a timeline, if you're going back and forth from past to future, that needs to be clear. If you've learned a lesson, I need to know who you were, who you are now, who you intend to be. We want to make sure that the cohesion is always there, whether that be cohesion through a timeline, cohesion through your theme, and cohesion through the ending, making sense for the middle and the beginning. Okay, so
Absolutely.
you really want to think about that timeline.
Perfect. Yeah, I think cohesion is such a great way to put it, is, if you've ever had a friend, students, if you've ever had a friend kind of tell you a story and you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about, or I don't get it. That's probably not a cohesive story that your friend is telling you. And you don't want to come off like that in the admissions process. So that's why we talk about writing it out, talking it out, creating structure. You can be creative, but there has to be some type of structure that somebody else who's reading your story, you completely get your story, you've lived it, but somebody else on the other end of that computer needs to be able to get it too. And I think cohesion, structure, and clarity like Christina is talking about, is going to help somebody be able to digest that story and understand what you were trying to say. I really like that you talked about connecting the dots. You know, there's going to be different dots, different phases of life, different things that you're talking about. You have to connect them together. So, you know, a lot of times we have students that want to talk about something, and you talked about, you know, highlighting their theme. Your theme is your vehicle, your topic. Take them through that with that. Sometimes we have students who want to talk about a bunch of different stories. There might be times where it's better to focus on one of those stories as your main topic. And I've done that with a lot of students. I'll go through their essay and I'll say, there's about three essays in here, and you put them all into one. But then there are some other students who, if done right with a series of vignettes and a strong reflection, you can kind of wrap everything together. And I think we can't say that enough, is that the reflection is necessary. You can tell all the details of the story, but we
Yeah.
want to know about what you were processing and how you were feeling, what you were thinking. The reflection is a large part of the essay, and it shouldn't be sped up at the end in the last paragraph. It should really be fleshed out more. So now we have brainstormed our essay. We've had the aha moment, picked the topic. We've talked about execution and some strategies that we can use to create, you know, a fully fleshed out essay. But thinking about it, you know, are there essays that are considered bad or bad topics, and are there essays that are considered good and good topics? And let's talk about some examples of those.
Sure. So I think, yeah, I mean, it's in the eye of the reader, right? To some extent of what is a good essay versus a bad essay. Obviously, grammatical errors will always be put into the universal bad essay.
And
Um,
block paragraphs, don't do block paragraphs. That's a big
yeah,
no.
don't do block paragraphs. Definitely don't do grammatical errors. Like, know where your commas go. Like, no run-on sentences. So that's obvious. I mean, you all are beautiful scholars. You know that. Um, but I will say, I mean, anything, I love that you keep saying, Lewis, about the reflection piece. I'm always paying attention. It's the psychologist in me. So when I hear the rest of my team from so many different walks of life, from so many different lived experiences, I try to take what are they all saying universally about a bad essay. And it's a lack of reflection and connection. That if we don't, if we, because we are your voice, and I think that needs to be understood. We are in a room that you will never be in, but you want access into. And so I am your voice. And if I can't make sense of your story, how can I tell it to somebody else at the table? And so a good essay is that whether I know you or not, I feel at least I have a window into who you are so that I can sit at the table and tell everybody to look through this window with me because I see who you are. And so bad topics, I think, are anything that does not illuminate the power of your essay. The power is knowing who you are. So if I can't illuminate that to somebody else, it was a bad topic. And a specific example was a young man who went and studied abroad, and his topic was about community service. Why it was poorly executed and deemed a bad essay was because he showed me no self-reflection. He literally wrote in a sentence, he could not recall the name of the organization. So then why are you writing to me this was pivotal in your life if you don't even know who you were serving? That's not someone I want in my community that does service for the sake of service, and sort of has this elitism of him being helpful when he doesn't know who he's helping. So that's a specific anecdote of what was a bad essay.
Yeah, for sure. And I think lots of times students want to, that's some students want to paint themselves in a light that's not necessarily the light that they're actually in.
Right.
They want to go for a shock factor, and it doesn't necessarily work all the time. One example that I have when I was an admissions counselor was, it was a business student applying, and he was basically talking about wanting to be a business executive, working on Wall Street, working on finance. Academic profile was stellar. But when we dove into the essay, he talked about wanting to be the Wolf of Wall Street. And we're thinking about that movie. If anybody has seen it or hasn't seen it, that's probably not somebody you want to be compared to, or that you want colleges to know that you're that type of person. The Wolf of Wall Street was a backstabber. He was selfish, didn't care about anybody, just cared about being number one. And when you're using that topic to highlight how great you are as a business person or a future business executive, it falls very flat. And the essay was written well, it was structured well. the whole reflection of him being a a student was great, but there was a really large part of the essay where he was comparing himself to somebody he should not have been comparing himself to, um, in that application process. Every person's going to be themselves. They're going to have their own morals and ethics. But with thinking about, putting your best foot forward and being a community member and a team player, and a scholar, that probably wasn't the best thing that he could have done. And sometimes students get it very wrong with the topic, but sometimes they get it very right. So we do want to give you concrete examples of really good essays that we've read in our lifetime. So Christina, on the flip side, let's do a complete 180. Are there any essays where you've walked away and you're like, wow, I have to read that again, or you're talking to your colleagues about it, or you save that student's ID number to pull it up later on to maybe use as an example?
Absolutely. I mean, it is a gift and a treasure to be invited into someone's life momentarily, right? To have a sneak peek of to who someone is. So it is a gift and an honor to read folks' essays. I want to make that clear that all of us in admissions that are doing this right understand the sanctity of your words that you're sharing with us. So I just want to put that out there. It is sacred to read your work. So the ones that stay with me and will stay with me for my lifetime, and I have totally like called the AVP into my office and will read him an essay. Also on Fridays during essay reading weeks, every staff member can read one of their favorite essays. So we do that. No offices do that. Your work will be shared with the masses of our offices. But one of my favorite ones, and the reason I use this in particular is because so many students come to me plagued with anxiety in very polarity ways, right? They either feel like they have had to start a nonprofit at like 10 and save the world by 15, or they feel very pressured to commodify their trauma for, the gaze of admissions, right? And so those are significant topics. And if any Berkeley scholar wants to talk about that, one-on-one, we can have that conversation. So this one I use to sort of be the middle of those pools of polarity of what you write about. My young man ended up writing his college essay, which got him admitted and enrolled into Lafayette College, about a McFlurry coupon. And he pulled me in because I'm like, what scholar would write about a McFlurry coupon and going to McDonald's? But the whole point of his essay, he takes me through a whole journey of a very mundane, typical high school day, and ends it with him being in line, him wanting to get out of school so bad just to go get his McFlurry. He's in line and his coupon is expired. And then that's where he mic drops. His mic drop moment is saying that he couldn't believe how many other instances in his life was he avoiding the joy of the present to get to some external moment, and waiting for pleasure, waiting for joy, and avoiding everything else until he got there. It was deep, it was poignant, it was funny, it was lighthearted, and I will never forget him, and I will never forget his essay.
Yeah, it sounds like he reeled you in within the first couple of sentences. And that's something that we also talk about with structure is, you want to reel in your reader and get them to read your essay and want to invest in reading your essay multiple times. So yeah, I felt that pain going to McDonald's. My coupon wasn't expired, but the McFlurry machine's always broken. So I can't imagine how he felt showing up. It is working and your coupon's not working.
And it's expired.
Yeah, that's tough. Um, One example that I had, the last example we have for all of you is I had a student write about um, women's issues and being a feminist and self-confidence, and the vehicle that she used and the topic that she used was lipstick. And there was a student who was pretty tomboyish, and one day was shopping with her friend, and her friend was trying to convince her to buy lipstick, but she thought she was dumb. uh, and she was like, you know what, fine. She gave in. She bought the lipstick. She didn't use it for a while. Finally she uses the lipstick, and her interaction for everything changed because people were treating her differently. She felt a little bit more confident. She was talking more. She felt a bit more social. um, and she kept using the lipstick until it ran out, and when it came time to buy another lipstick, she decided not to. And the big aha moment, and like I like to say, the mic drop moment, like you just said, was, she talked about why people treated her differently for wearing this lipstick, but and really understanding her role as a woman, and as a feminist in society and how people react to you and what you look like, but kind of spun it in a different way and was also talking about how she appreciates the lipstick for what it was because it brought out the qualities and the confidence that was there, but she just kind of needed a little push. But now that it was brought to the surface, she didn't need the lipstick anymore, which I thought was a really unique, cool way to self reflect, to bring her identities into the essay and to really kind of have an honest conversation with the reader, which I thought was really great. And I say conversation because, you know, when we're reading it, we're having thoughts and we're talking to ourselves, and it's kind of like you're putting your thoughts in and we're having our thoughts while we're reading. And that's where that, you know, really strong essay execution, I think, happens. So that's what we have for all of you today. I want to thank our fabulous guest, Ms. Cristina Usino, Lafayette College. Thank you so much for your expertise. It's always a pleasure having you come and you know, share your knowledge with us and your bright, vibrant personality. You make the world of admissions fun. You made the college essay really fun and talking about that. And I think that that's truly a gift that you give to our students. And students, be on the lookout. She will be visiting either virtually or in person. And I tell you that you don't want to miss her high school visit because it is one that is very fun to attend, very knowledgeable, as well as entertaining. And thank you so much again. And students, I want you to be on the lookout for our third video, which will be Miss Williams as well as Maddie Ross from Colorado College. And they'll be talking about how to think about and execute the college supplement. So thank you so much and have a fabulous day.
Thanks, y'all.